one of our most popular new segments. The only new segment we've introduced in the last year, probably, which I think we're now calling Reddit on Reddit.
Yes. Temporarily until someone tells us that 6 other shows.
I don't know. I mean, what's going on Reddit I liked, but I understand. We opted for maybe a catchier team. So we're digging into the r/boardgames subreddit of Reddit to see some interesting topics, find out what the people are buzzing about, maybe give a little of our own thoughts and opinions. A few topics that I found were interesting, threads as they call them. This one is called Pet Peeves, ? From user Ryguy the Pie Guy. And he asks what pet peeves people have that other people do during board games. The example that he gives is he has a friend who calls any currency in any game, no matter what game it is, dollars. And for some reason that just really annoys this guy. A bunch of people said, I saw things like...
I know one that I'm going to be shocked is not on that list, because it's your pet peeve.
Well, there were some things, and maybe this is what you're going to say, is being on your phone.
Oh, yeah. No.
Which, I guess, that's a very valid pet peeve.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's...
No. I was just, when I heard pet peeve and I heard this example, I was thinking more of, to me, that's almost like, that's beyond pet peeve. That's just like you're not playing the game. Whereas, calling things dollars is a much more innocuous, just kind of silly thing. But a lot of people said things like not listening to the rules.
I can see the phone thing being more a manners less than a pet peeve. Like,
yeah, sort of.
Calling something a dollar really isn't manners
It's
really.
Just kind of like...
something that just rubs you the wrong way.
Yeah, it's like completely irrational. But a pet peeve could be either thing. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard for us to maybe talk about it because all our pet peeves would be with our same group. So.
I'm fine. I've got one right off the bat.
Yeah.
This happens in multiple games, but really the big one is the DC deck building game. Or the Cryptozoic deck building game. Every time, no matter who beat it, the boss, and take the card read. Before we've set up and ready to reveal the next one, my brother just takes the card and reads it himself. And that just bothers me. Wait until everyone's ready and we'll reveal to everyone.
No, well, and
then I'll take the card sometimes and he gets angry at that.
I also feel like that happens a lot in any game where a card flips out, one person will just grab it and read it no matter what. And it's like, oh, can I just wonder what that says? Maybe you could read that out loud.
I know we're all going to see it. It's just, I don't know, it bothers me.
Yeah, that's not bad. Phones for me, not paying attention. Everyone's such common things, but analysis paralysis, which everybody's also inflicted by. No, I don't think anyone is completely free of that in a game, but it can be bad. Some other ones people said were like thinking really far ahead, or the opposite. If someone appears to, which I know we've experienced, just not care either way, whether they win or lose.
I think it's dependent on the game and scenario. Sometimes it's good because it can actually throw off. I like that sometimes because it throws the game off, that you have to also learn how to move around with that.
Maybe.
Because you can always have that one person in the group who can predict everyone.
It depends on if it's your first time playing the game, or it's a really strategic game and you're like, oh, maybe you don't want to play. Just don't play. I don't know. So anyway, those are some pet peeves. There's some valid ones in there. We got another one that I thought was kind of an interesting thinker. From user Hephaestus Incognito. I haven't played any of the entry-level board games. Am I missing out? Basically, this person said they kind of got into the deep end of the board gaming pool, and they never went back and played games like Catan, Dominion, Pandemic, and they're wondering, is it worth it to even go back and play those? So what gateway games do you think are actually worth it, or are there any that you think you should just avoid if you missed out on them?
I almost, honestly, usually even some of the bad games we played, I'm glad we played once, first off. So maybe it's still worth it. So when people say something like, oh, okay, I played Catan. I definitely would argue that, at least for me, Pandemic and Dominion both are worthy, even though they're entry. I think Pandemic is a good cooperative game in general, and especially when you have the legacy game coming out and stuff. If you want to do a group, it's good to just play the regular one first and just have the general mechanics underneath. And this one's more for me. I know maybe not for you, but honestly, most deck building games I'm fine with. So Dominion, isn't really a downer for me, especially since if you have more expansions, you can do all these weird combinations to really shift it up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would also add Ticket to Ride to that list.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I think that's definitely one that holds up.
I still want to play that every now and then.
Yeah,
especially the newer ones. I want to do Rails and Sails again.
Catan is actually one I would say, honestly, play it if you have the chance, just because it's a classic. You should experience it, but I definitely wouldn't say buy it. If you're that deep in, I definitely think that's one that...
I'm sure you can find someone who has a copy.
Yeah. Munchkin is another very good example of if you missed it, that's okay, I think. Those are pretty good examples.
And honestly, it comes down to making sure you have people to play with.
Yeah, it depends on who your group is. If you want something, if you have more newer players maybe, or if you're always playing with the more hardcore group. Another topic from Ka Modica Dragon. Question, does a game's box size deter you from buying it? Essentially, they want to know, in terms of space, would you not buy a game because the box is too big? Or a lot of people brought up tins, of course. I know that a lot of people don't like when games are in tins. But how much of a factor is it for you at all when you're looking at a board game, the size of the box? For me, honestly, it's something I almost never think about until it's on my shelf. I never am thinking about what that box is going to look like.
Honestly, for me, usually when I look at a game box, I may groan if it has a weird long shape or something, or tin. I admit I really don't like the tins. But at the same time, I know worst comes worst. If it's like the worst box shape, like that's some weird 3D box, I could take out the components and put it in something else if I really had to.
That's true.
So, but at this point, I don't think I don't think it'll ever be a factor to me to not buy a game, but I'll still complain about it.
Now, what do you think about one of the comments was theorizing that at some point there may be a standardized box size, the way that for computer games there eventually were, where all games would have to be the same size. Honestly,
we're really close to that. If you notice, a lot of the games that start off with a long version have made a second edition that's a 12 by 12. I think that is the standardized, which, I think is great. If you look, I got my shelf here from IKEA. We've posted many pictures before, and I'm sure more shelves will be similar to that. A 12 depth, even if it's a long game, as long as you can put it in nice and flat, a lot of people I think would prefer.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really the depth as much as the 12 by 12 is.
I think that would be great.
Close in terms of bigger games. I don't think smaller ones might have that as much, but because they're smaller, it's almost they're designed to be as small as possible to fit whatever components.
I think I also like the idea of board game designers having to limit themselves a little and maybe, not necessarily be able to be like, well, my game board is this big, so that's how big my box is going to be. To kind of, even I don't want to get rid of that forever because, sometimes those games should exist, but I think a lot of times limitations can improve a game if they're forced to think that aspect through.
I think the few games I know have long now that are newish, usually, not define, I think earn the right because they have so much stuff in them. Usually, it's very rare or because they're meant to hold, it's a weird collector's box. Which I understand then. In the end though, I think what's more important actually is not the outside of the box for me, but the inside. Honestly, if I was deciding between two games, regardless of how they look on the outside, if I heard one had a better insert that fit all the packaging in, I'd probably buy that first.
I can't blame you there. All right, final topic from Reddit, very relevant because we were just talking about this the other night. From user JustGen89, no one else. Their question is, how do you cull your collection? They're starting to run out of room for games, and they're trying to decide how to get rid of games and when. And I know we were just looking at, because I have a closet and I've been running out of space, and I've been kind of taking games that I feel like we don't play and putting them in that closet. I don't know, I think we've both run into this problem to some extent. How do you...
I'm sorry, correct. Yeah. We're both running into this problem. It's constant. It's not...
Yes, have and will again. For me, I generally look at my shelf and say, well, when I look at my shelf, how many scenarios do I really see myself suggesting this game over another one? And if there's a pretty good chance there isn't one, or there are many that I would recommend over it, I'm probably going to just, take it off.
So right now, I'm pretty much at that point. I'm not counting that shelf over there. If you've seen the Zoom up stuff, we have like all the Hasbro games. I honestly brought them down. Like
That's
these
a
are the ones I
joke.
collected. Yeah, or just to be over there. We call it the shelf of shame. But I'm at the point when this is pretty
Real
full, and
games.
I've fixed things really nice. Like I've tried to optimize as best as possible. I do feel, at least I feel for us, it's a little bit harder because we do this podcast and stuff, we almost want to have the games on standby to talk about and then do a video for, try to get through all of them and stuff. So we're on a little bit different compared to maybe some other people.
Yeah, we're also sometimes getting review copies and preview copies. And
Yeah,
things like that.
our friend asked you about like, why do you keep getting games? It's like the last like 10 games I got were review. Like,
Yeah, like I can't help it. It's not my fault. I'm a victim.
So that's, I think, a little bit harder for us personally to answer. Mm-hmm. I know with other people, obviously giving them away to like garage sales or like people in need is always a big thing.
Board Game Geek, there's always like the math trades and stuff you could do, or on Reddit where you can trade up. Of course, that doesn't really solve your space problem, but maybe if you keep a consistent collection size, you just keep rotating them out. Something you could do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, something to think about because I want to get rid of like half my games.
Well, and the other big thing that helped us, I don't know how much this would help certain people.
Bag of holding.
Yeah.
Go on.
But like if you are getting all the Cryptozoic deck building, you'd have a lot of boxes. But I put them all in that big white box.
Yeah.
And just drew on it, and that I'm pretty sure saves a lot of space. And same thing with your legendary.
Create your own storage. I also get very excited if I get expansions and manage to fit them all in one box and don't have to deal with.
Oh, that is
things on the
such a
shelf.
good feeling.
Yeah. Anyway, if you got a Reddit post you thought was interesting, you can send it our way. We'll maybe talk about it on the show.
If you enjoyed this video, it was just a snippet of our full-length podcast, which you can find on our YouTube channel every week. So please go ahead, like, and subscribe for more board game-related content coming at you in the future.
And don't forget to check out rollforcrit.com, where we actually sell a lot of the games we talked about, as well as post news and all our other videos. Until then, I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and this is Roll for Crit.